Chapter 2 of The Island at the End of Everything. The Meeting. Church is the most beautiful building on the island. I like it here because it's always cool inside, even now when the sun is heating the sand to coals on the beach below. The walls shine white like the centre of coral. To see it glowing like a beacon at the top of the hill makes the last steep stretch seem easier, though Nane found it very difficult on her last visit. We are sitting behind Capuno and Bondok, who live down the street from us. Nane has not said amen even once, or stood when she's meant to, though this may be because she is sore from the climb. The other children from school are sitting at the back, all together in one big clump like they do after class. Excuse me. When we came in, the girls bent their heads together and whispered. I know they think I'm strange because I don't stay to play after school, but Nane needs me to help her at home. I slide my hands into hers and squeeze. She's all the friends I need, though sometimes I do wish the girls wouldn't whisper. Father Fernan is about to start the final part of his sermon. This week is about temperance, which I think means not drinking alcohol because it makes God sad when you sing loudly in the street. I hope Bondok is listening because though his name means mountain and he looks like a mountain, he sings like a strangled goat. Capuno and Bondok are brothers. Capuno is touched, Bondok is not. But he followed his brother to Cullion anyway. Capuno is as small as Bondok is big, but he has a quiet energy about him, an undertow. They are two of the kindest men I know, even if they do sing in the street through lack of temperance. So remember, next time you pass the tavern, Father Fernan intones, tip your hat to the owner and turn up your palms to God. Let us pray. I go to bow my head, but Nane unclasps my fingers and crosses her arms. The sisters do not notice because we are told to look down to talk to God, even though apparently he is above our heads in heaven. Very confusing. Father Fernan makes the sign of the cross over us. There is silence for a moment as everyone wonders what is going to come next. Father Fernan rearranges his sombre expression into a smile. People sit a little less straight and murmur to each other. Nane uncrosses her arms slightly. They are marked where her fingernails dug in. Sister Clara sits beside the pulpit while Sister Marguerite sets up another 3 chairs and then settles into one. There is the sound of footsteps up the aisle and a man I have not seen before passes us with Dr. Thomas, whose face is solemn. The stranger is wearing a pale linen suit and carries 2 wooden planks. He walks like a marionette, picking his feet up high, then sits on one of the chairs, headstring pulled taut. We all look at Father Fernan expectantly. Thank you for joining us, he begins, as if we have only just arrived. We are here to discuss some very important changes that will be taking place in Cullion town. These changes may seem strange at first, but we must remember God's plan and trust in him. Sister Clara gravely nods, but Sister Marguerite's wide mouth is sealed thinly shut as an envelope, and Dr. Thomas looks pained, his face scrunched up like a chewed toffee. Sitting beside Dr. Thomas is our special guest, Mr. Zamora. Everyone's heads swivel. Mr. Zamora works for the government in Manila. He is going to share with you the future of our island. The stranger unfolds from his chair. He is so long and thin that he looks like a locust standing upright. His hands jangle limply from his wrists as he steps forward and takes off his hat, which he really shouldn't have been wearing inside anyway. Patients and families, he starts, and I already know this is not going to be a good meeting. Nobody who lives here thinks of the touched as patients, except maybe Sister Clara. Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed the service. His voice is full and low, at odds with his skinny frame, his lips puffy as a fish. Nane is tense again beside me, and in front Bondoc leans back on the hard wooden pew and crosses his arms. Father Vernon is right that I am here to tell you about some very important changes, but he neglected to mention they are also exciting. We, the government, are moving Cullion towards a place of enlightenment. He strikes each beat of the word on his palm. Progress is being made in the fight against the affliction that so many of you suffer from. With all due respect to Dr. Thomas, the methods used to treat the disease are evolving very fast outside of the colony. We already know that leprosy is caused by bacterium, and I am sure Dr. Thomas has advised you all that cleanliness is paramount. We are hopeful that within the lifespan of your children we will find a cure for lepers. There is a collective intake of breath, and Nane flinches. We do not use that word. My palms itch. It is suddenly stifling inside the church. But until that day, changes must be made. We must prevent the spread of the disease. It has brought to the government's attention that many of you are breeding. I know that Father Vernon and the sisters will have advised you against this. But what of those children who are born without the disease? Must they too live the life of a leper? He has found his rhythm now, striding across the front of the church on his needle-thin legs, his hands waving. Meanwhile, we have stopped sitting quietly. People are hissing angrily, the noise rising like spit on hot coals. Nane takes my hand and squeezes. We say no, Mr. Zamora continues, as if the hissing were applause. We are going to save Cullion's innocence and give them a better life. Is that not what parents want? A better life for their children? From here on, we will facilitate this through a process of segregation. That means separation. He swoops suddenly on the wooden planks beside his chair and holds them up, one in each hand. On one is written Sano, on the other Leproso. Bondoc stands up, more mountain-like than ever. His body is trembling as he shrugs off Capuno's restraining hand and forces his way into the aisle, striding to within a foot of Mr. Zamora. I think he might hit him, but he just stands with his hands clenched into a fist. What is the meaning of this? He says furiously. Sister Margarita stood up too and is beside him, speaking soothingly. Mr. Zamora twitches his fish lips into a smile. I was just about to explain, he says. Well, explain then, and choose better words than the ones you've already used, said Bondoc, allowing Sister Marguerite to lead him to a space on the front pew. Please, this is our guest, starts Father Vernon, but Mr. Zamora raises his hand the way Sister Clara does to us in school and inclines his head in an of course. He displays the planks again. Sano means clean. Leproso means leper. We can read, mutters Capuno. Many of these signs will be placed around the island. Those who are clean must stay in the areas marked Sano. Those who are lepers must keep to their designated places. But what of the families? Nane drops my hand and stands with the suddenness of Bondoc, but she does not approach Mr. Zamora. I'm sorry? What of the families? I can't hear you. He can. We all know he can. Nane must know that too, but after only a moment's pause, she unwraps the cloth around her face. She can be very brave when she wants to be. Sister Clara looks away with a tut, but Mr. Zamora stares in a way that's even worse. I said, what about the families? I have bread. My clean daughter has been living with me, her demonstrably dirty mother, for all of her life. She has remained clean despite the best attempts of my affliction to sully her. What do you propose to be done? Her voice is a challenge with the point of a sword on her tongue. Mr. Zamora wets his lips. This is what I was going to address before your interruption. Nane inhales deeply to reply, but Father Fernan stands up and opens his hands like when he is demonstrating God opening his heart to us. Please, child, let our guest finish. It is a betrayal. I feel this as certain as the sweat on my palms. He is betraying us. Nane sinks back down and does not take my hand again. So I squeeze her wrist to show her I am proud.